Imagine waking up every day with the feeling that your joints are rebelling against you. Every step seems to echo with a creak. Every movement requires disproportionate effort, and even lifting a cup of coffee becomes an irritating task. This scenario may seem exaggerated, but for millions of people over 50, it is simply routine. Now, here's a question that may change the way you view joint pain. Could it be that what you put on your plate has more impact on your joints than the medications you take every day? The answer is surprising. And science has demonstrated this with increasing clarity. In the United States, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, estimates that more than 58 million adults live with some form of arthritis. Among those over 50, this condition is the main cause of chronic pain and functional limitation. But despite pharmaceutical advances, complete relief remains a distant promise. That's where an often overlooked element comes in: diet. Although still underestimated by many doctors, functional nutrition has gained strength as a powerful ally in the fight against inflammation. And in this scenario, vegetable proteins have been gaining ground for their beneficial effects that go far beyond muscle building. Studies carried out by Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health reveal that plant-based diets, rich in anti-inflammatory and antioxidant compounds, are associated with significant reduction of inflammatory markers, such as C-reactive protein, CRP. Still, resistance to abandoning or reducing animal protein consumption remains strong. Cultural issues, myths about nutritional deficiencies, and even fear of weakness lead many to dismiss the benefits of plant-based eating without even trying it. However, what few people realize is that, in addition to reducing inflammation, plant-based proteins also help maintain heart, gut, and, of course, joint health. Traditional medicine, as important as it is, has left a worrying gap in this regard. Few clinical protocols include practical nutritional guidelines for patients with joint pain. As a result, a potential natural remedy, food, continues to be underutilized. Throughout this content, we will explore how small changes to your menu can result in big changes to your quality of life. We will show you which plant-based protein foods really work, which studies support their effectiveness, and how to integrate them into your daily life in a simple, enjoyable, and safe way. We will also address the main challenges faced by those trying to change their diet after the age of 50, from the difficulties of adapting to taste to the social, emotional, and financial obstacles that often prevent transformation. You will discover, step by step, how food can be a real ally in the fight against chronic pain, contributing to autonomy, mobility, and well-being in a phase of life that deserves to be lived to the fullest. And before moving on to the next part, tell us here in the comments, what city or country are you watching this video from? We're curious to see how far this information can go. If you think arthritis is just a generic term for joint pain, there's a lot more to this condition. The word actually describes a group of more than 100 different diseases that affect the joints and surrounding tissues. And understanding the differences between the main types can be the first step to taking control of your health. Osteoarthritis, for example, is the most common form and is associated with the natural wear and tear of cartilage, that shock absorber between the bones. It mainly affects the knees, hips, and hands, and its progression tends to be slow. Rheumatoid arthritis is an autoimmune disease in which the immune system itself attacks the joints, causing constant inflammation. And there is also DROP, caused by a buildup of uric acid crystals, usually as a result of a diet high in purines. As we age, these conditions become more frequent. According to data from Arthritis Foundation, nearly 50% of people over 65 years old have clinical symptoms of some type of arthritis. The most common risk factors include obesity, a sedentary lifestyle, family history, previous injuries, and, in many cases, an inflammatory diet. But the impact of arthritis goes far beyond aching joints. Chronic inflammation, especially after age 50, can trigger a chain reaction in the body. It's been linked to an increased risk of heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and even cognitive impairment. When the body is inflamed for a long time, it enters a state of permanent alert, a silent exhaustion that undermines overall health. In recent years, science has begun to look more closely at a curious link: the connection between gut, immunity, and joints. Studies of Cleveland Clinic show that an imbalance in the gut microbiota can worsen autoimmune and inflammatory diseases, such as rheumatoid arthritis. An inflamed gut, populated by harmful bacteria, can dysregulate the immune system and contribute to persistent joint pain. While genetic factors influence your propensity to develop arthritis, they don't determine your fate. Epigenetics, the science of how your environment affects gene expression, shows that lifestyle choices like diet, sleep, and stress management play a huge role in whether the disease worsens or stops. Most patients immediately seek medical help from nonsteroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, NSAIDs, such as ibuprofen and naproxen. They offer quick relief, but prolonged use is associated with serious side effects, such as gastric ulcers, kidney problems, and cardiovascular risks. And even then, they often only treat the symptoms, not the root cause of the inflammation. An even bigger problem is the growing number of misdiagnoses or late diagnosis. Many professionals still do not adopt an integrative approach, which takes into account the patient's complete history, diet, emotional, and intestinal habits. This creates a frustrating cycle of medications, return visits, and recurring pain. It is in this scenario that the idea of using food as part of treatment is starting to gain traction. Unlike medications, foods can act on several fronts at the same time, reducing inflammation, rebalancing the intestines, and strengthening the immune system. But unfortunately, most standard treatments completely ignore this aspect, and patients don't even receive adequate nutritional education. In the next part, we will dive into the role of vegetable protein in this context, revealing how it can be a real ally in combating joint pain. Have you ever heard someone say that plant-based protein is useless because it's incomplete? This is one of the most persistent myths when it comes to healthy eating after 50. But the truth is that science has shown that plant-based protein can not only be sufficient, it can offer benefits that go far beyond simply building muscle. First of all, you need to understand the difference between vegetable proteins and animal proteins. Both are composed of amino acids, the building blocks of body tissues. The main criticism of plant proteins is that many of them do not contain all the 9 essential amino acids in ideal proportions. However, this does not mean that they are useless. It just means that to achieve a complete profile, it is necessary to combine different sources of vegetables throughout the day, something most diets already do naturally. Sources like beans, lentils, chickpeas, quinoa, oats, chia, flaxseed, and even dark green vegetables, such as spinach and kale, contain good amounts of protein. When these foods are combined, like rice and beans, for example, they form a protein profile as complete as that of meat or milk. And the best part, without saturated fats and inflammatory compounds present in many products of animal origin. Another important point is the digestibility. While animal protein may seem more efficient in terms of immediate absorption, it also tends to place greater demands on the digestive and renal systems, especially in people over 50. According to a study by Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health, vegetable proteins, although absorbed a little more slowly, cause less oxidative stress and less toxic waste, benefiting metabolism more broadly. In addition to the protein itself, plant-based foods offer a powerful advantage: the fibers. Present in abundance in legumes and whole grains, they feed the good bacteria in the intestine, helping to balance the microbiota and reduce systemic inflammatory processes. This is crucial in the case of arthritis, where the gut and immunity are deeply connected, as we saw in the previous part. And there's more. Protein-rich plant foods don't come alone. They bring a whole package of bioactive compounds, as phytonutrients, polyphenol, and antioxidants. These elements help fight free radicals, reduce the risk of chronic diseases, and also contribute to the protection of joints. American Society for Nutrition already highlights that diets rich in vegetables can reduce inflammatory markers in the blood, such as C-reactive protein, CRP. Another surprising factor is the impact of these proteins in uric acid reduction, especially useful for those who suffer from gout. A diet with a lower purine content, found mainly in red meat and seafood, can alleviate painful attacks. In this regard, partially replacing animal protein with vegetable protein can be a smart and preventative strategy. There are also notable benefits for the kidneys and heart. Diets rich in plant proteins have been shown to improve kidney function and reduce blood pressure, as reported by studies of National Kidney Foundation and of the American Heart Association. This is particularly relevant for older adults who often face multiple comorbidities. Despite so many advantages, one point that is still little explored is how to correctly combine these plant sources to optimize the intake of essential amino acids. Most people do not know that a simple daily dietary variation, including grains, seeds, and legumes, already covers this profile effortlessly and without the need for expensive or processed foods. In the next part, we will explore how plant proteins directly influence inflammation, with a special focus on joint pain. Get ready to see functional nutrition in action in a clear, practical, science-based way. Imagine waking up every day with stiff knees, pain getting out of bed, or difficulty holding a cup of coffee. For millions of people with arthritis, this is the reality. But what if the solution to relieving these symptoms was on your plate, specifically in a plant-based diet? Science has been investigating how diet can influence inflammation in the body, especially in conditions such as arthritis. Diets rich in plant-based foods have shown anti-inflammatory potential, which can alleviate joint symptoms. Recent studies indicate that a plant-based diet can modulate inflammatory markers, such as C-reactive protein, CRP, interleukin-6, IL-6, and TNF-alpha, reducing systemic inflammation. Comparing different dietary patterns, such as the Mediterranean, plant-based, and ketogenic diets, is observed that diets rich in vegetables, whole grains, legumes, fruits, and healthy fats, such as olive oil, are associated with lower levels of inflammation. The Mediterranean diet, for example, has been widely studied and associated with significant anti-inflammatory benefits. Foods rich in plant-based protein, such as legumes, nuts, and seeds, not only provide the amino acids needed for muscle maintenance, but also contain bioactive compounds, such as antioxidants and flavonoids, which fight inflammation. In addition, these foods are rich in fiber, which promotes gut health and can positively influence the immune system. Recent clinical studies have shown cases of remission or significant improvement in arthritis with the adoption of a plant-based diet. For example, a study published in the American Journal of Lifestyle Medicine found that a low-fat, non-calorie restricted vegan diet improved joint pain in patients with rheumatoid arthritis. Despite the scientific evidence, there is still a gap in the dissemination of this information among the public over 50. Many are unaware of the potential benefits of a plant-based diet for joint health. Nutritional education and adherence to these diets are crucial for more people to benefit from these discoveries. Examples of foods with proven anti-inflammatory effects include turmeric, which is rich in curcumin, and quercetin, found in onions and apples. These compounds have been studied for their ability to inhibit pro-inflammatory cytokines, such as TNF-alpha, and can be easily incorporated into your daily diet. In summary, adopting a plant-based diet can be an effective strategy for reducing inflammation and relieving arthritis symptoms. However, it is critical that this information is more widely disseminated and that there is support for nutritional education, especially among older adults. In the next part, we will explore how the right combination of plant proteins can optimize the amino acid profile and further contribute to joint health. Imagine opening your fridge and knowing exactly what to eat to reduce your joint pain. Tasty, simple meals that help your body fight inflammation and improve mobility. For those over 50, making this a reality may seem complicated, but with a few strategies, it is possible to create a diet rich in plant-based proteins without losing the pleasure of eating. An effective diet for this group needs to be accessible, nutritious, and practical. The focus is on including legumes, beans, lentils, chickpeas, whole grains, brown rice, quinoa, oats, seeds, chia, flaxseed, sunflower, oilseeds, walnuts, almonds, dark green vegetables, spinach, kale, broccoli, and fermented sources, such as tempeh, on a daily basis. These combinations provide a solid foundation for the body to function better and respond positively to the natural anti-inflammatory process of food. Combining foods correctly is essential to ensure full use of amino acids. The famous combination of rice and beans, for example, is a perfect nutritional marriage. Lentils with quinoa also provide all the essential amino acids. Grilled tofu with steamed vegetables makes a meal rich in plant-based protein and antioxidant nutrients. The secret is to vary and combine foods throughout the day, not necessarily in a single meal. The way food is prepared influences not only its flavor, but also its digestibility and the use of nutrients. Techniques such as sprouting of lentils or chickpeas, fermentation, as in tempeh, and proper cooking, using anti-inflammatory herbs and spices such as turmeric and ginger, make dishes more palatable and functional. These precautions help to reduce anti-nutrients and improve the absorption of proteins and minerals. For those who are not used to the taste or texture of certain plant-based foods, the key is in the seasonings and preparation methods. Roasting in the oven with olive oil and herbs, grilling with lemon, or using sauces made with tahini, mustard, or fresh herbs can make all the difference. According to the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, one of the largest nutrition organizations in the U.S., acceptance of new foods increases over time and with repeated exposure, especially if they are well prepared. Supplementation can be an ally, especially in cases of restricted diet or low intake. Vitamin B12, for example, is not naturally present in plant-based foods and should be supplemented in plant-based diets. In some cases, shakes with plant-based protein powder from peas, rice, or hemp can help meet daily requirements, especially for those with low dietary intake or greater muscle wasting. It is important to consider possible dietary restrictions or medication use. For example, foods rich in vitamin K, such as kale and spinach, can interfere with blood thinners. In addition, people with kidney disease need to adjust their protein intake, even plant-based proteins. Whenever possible, it is ideal to have the support of a specialized nutritionist. For many adults over 50, dietary transition can be an emotional and social challenge. Therefore, the change should be gradual, introducing new foods in small amounts, replacing 1 or 2 meals a week, and including the family in this process. Participating in cooking workshops or support groups can also help overcome initial resistance and awaken the pleasure of cooking. Despite advances in science, there is still a huge gap when it comes to teaching basic cooking skills to older people. Many do not know how to prepare legumes or are even familiar with ingredients like tofu, quinoa, or chickpeas. Providing practical culinary education is just as important as nutritional information. Imagine a 72-year-old woman who, after years of suffering from joint pain and loss of strength, decides to change her diet. She gradually includes more legumes and protein-rich vegetables and starts walking every day. Within 6 months, she not only feels less pain, but she can also climb stairs more easily. This story is more common than you might think, and it reveals the surprising impact of plant-based proteins on muscle health after age 50. Sarcopenia, the name given to the progressive loss of muscle mass and strength, is one of the biggest silent threats to healthy aging. According to the National Institute on Aging, around 30% of people over 60 have some degree of sarcopenia, a number that reaches 50% among those over 80. This condition drastically increases the risk of falls, fractures, and loss of independence, especially in those living with arthritis. The good news? Muscle is an adaptable tissue. It responds not only to movement, but also to nutrition. Recent research, such as that published in the Journal of the American Geriatric Society, show that diets rich in vegetable proteins, when well planned, are effective in maintaining and even gaining muscle mass in the elderly, especially when combined with physical exercise. The secret lies in the synergy between diet and movement. Resistance exercises, such as lightweight training, moderate-intensity walking, or Pilates, stimulate muscle growth. When combined with an adequate intake of plant-based proteins, such as lentils, chickpeas, tofu, and quinoa, the body finds the ideal building blocks to repair and strengthen muscles, even as we age. Contrary to what many people think, the ideal is not to concentrate protein intake in a single meal, such as dinner. Tufts University in the United States recommends distributing protein intake in a balanced way throughout the day, at breakfast, lunch, and dinner, to maximize muscle synthesis, especially in the elderly. What about the quality of vegetable protein? Comparative studies published by American Journal of Clinical Nutrition show that well-planned vegetarian diets are no less beneficial than omnivorous ones when it comes to maintaining muscle strength. The key is in food diversity and the consumption of strategic combinations that provide all the essential amino acids throughout the day. More than strength, vegetable protein is also linked to the prevention of falls and fractures. The combination of firmer muscles, less inflamed bones, and more stable joints directly contributes to preserving mobility and reducing accidents. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, falls are the leading cause of accidental death among older adults in the U.S. And one of the most effective ways to prevent them is to keep your muscles active and nourished. The challenge, however, is still low protein intake. Data from National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, NANS, point out that up to 45% of adults over 60 years of age consume less protein than necessary to preserve lean mass. Part of this is due to a lack of knowledge about rich plant sources and the belief that only meat provides quality protein. Finally, to enhance the effects of your diet, it is essential to incorporate physical activity into your routine. Exercises such as bodyweight squats, brisk walking, climbing stairs, resistance band exercises, and even adapted yoga can make a significant difference when combined with a diet based on protein-rich vegetables. Have you ever noticed how some dietary changes are met with resistance, even when they bring clear benefits? Consider Donna Maria, who at age 65 was told that cutting back on meat could ease her joint pain. Even so, she hesitated, thinking that a vegetarian diet would be boring, expensive, and even unnatural. This reaction is not unique. Many adults over 50 face cultural, economic, and even medical barriers to adopting a plant-based diet. One of the most common obstacles is deeply held beliefs. Plant-based protein is not complete, I need meat for energy, or a meatless diet is boring are common phrases. However, data from the National Institutes of Health, NIH, and the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health shows that well-planned plant-based diets provide all the amino acids needed for a healthy life, as well as fiber and anti-inflammatory compounds that animal protein lacks. Cost also raises concerns. While ultra-processed vegan foods are expensive and less nutritious, natural sources such as beans, lentils, chickpeas, and rice are affordable and traditional in many cultures. Often, the impression of expensive comes from the immediate association with processed foods, but a plant-based diet can be simple and affordable. As for the flavor, the initial rejection is understandable. Taste is a social and cultural construct shaped since childhood. But with the use of natural seasonings, different ways of preparation, and culinary creativity, the flavor of plant-based food can be very pleasurable. A good tip is to try techniques such as marinades, grilling, and fermentation to give more texture and aroma to dishes. In recent years, the market for ultra-processed plant-based meats has grown exponentially, promising convenience and a flavor similar to that of animal meat. However, these options contain high levels of sodium, fats, and additives. Recent research published by the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition warns against consuming these products in moderation, recommending prioritizing natural and minimally processed foods. Community programs have proven successful in encouraging healthy eating. Cities in the United States, such as Portland and Seattle, have implemented urban gardens, cooking workshops, and partnerships with clinics to educate older adults about plant-based eating, reducing costs, and promoting collective well-being. In Brazil, similar initiatives are still not very widespread, highlighting a significant social gap. Another challenge is the lack of support from healthcare professionals. Although nutrition is recognized as a pillar of prevention and treatment, many medical schools dedicate a few hours to the topic. According to data from the NIH, less than 25% of medical schools in the U.S. offer significant nutrition courses, which makes consistent guidance difficult. This creates confusion and demotivation for patients seeking alternative diets for pain and inflammation. Furthermore, it is essential to avoid extremes. Not every plant-based diet needs to be strict and restrictive. Balance and listening to your body are essential for a healthy transition. Therefore, a personalized eating plan, with the support of nutritionists and doctors, makes all the difference in ensuring long-lasting and risk-free results. Finally, social support is a decisive factor. Participating in groups to share experiences, conversation circles, and having the support of family members helps to overcome difficulties, clarify doubts, and strengthen the change. Changing eating habits is also a journey of emotional transformation, and no one should go through alone. Sure, here is Part 8, Conclusion, as requested, with about 500 to 600 words, 9 paragraphs, direct language, storytelling, and reliable U.S. statistics. Imagine Joao, a 58-year-old man who has lived with debilitating joint pain for years. He thought that suffering was part of aging until he discovered the power of changing his diet. This story, which could be shared by many others, shows us that a plant-based diet is not a miracle, but rather a powerful tool for transforming lives. Throughout this journey, we've seen that arthritis and other joint conditions go far beyond simple inflammation. They're complex processes involving genetics, lifestyle, diet, and gut health. Science, with recent research from institutions like the NIH and the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health, confirms that plant-based diets can modulate inflammation, improve muscle function, and protect vital organs. However, it is important to understand that there is no instant cure. The journey of those who decide to change their eating habits is made up of small daily achievements, from the gradual relief of symptoms to the recovery of quality of life. And this has a direct impact on aging. With smart choices, it is possible to maintain autonomy, mobility, and energy to enjoy each phase of life to the fullest. The union of science, tradition, and self-care is what sustains this transformation. Many of the foods and preparations used for centuries in different cultures contain bioactive compounds that we now know to be allies against inflammation and joint wear. Recovering these practices based on science is, therefore, a natural and effective path. The benefits go beyond physical health. Those who adopt a plant-based diet experience improved mood, more energy for daily activities, and less dependence on medication. This has a direct impact on self-esteem and a sense of well-being, which are essential for people over 50 who want to age well. If you're thinking about making this change, remember, it doesn't have to be radical. Small steps, such as including more legumes and reducing processed meats, can already yield results. Consistency and adapting to your own pace are the keys to lasting and enjoyable success. For those who want to learn more, I recommend consulting reliable sources such as the websites of the National Institutes of Health, NIH, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, and the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health. These resources offer up-to-date and well-founded information to guide your choices. Finally, I leave you with a message of empowerment. From the age of 50 onwards, life can be lived with vigor, ease, and without limiting pain. You have in your hands the power to choose foods that nourish your body and mind, promoting health and longevity. Aging does not have to be synonymous with suffering. Are you ready to take the first step towards a life with more mobility and less pain? Share in the comments what motivated you most to learn about this approach or your questions so that we can grow together on this journey.